Hello YouTube and welcome to the nation of free to play. I'm Mr. Mondstadt and today I want to talk about all the things you need to know as a new F2P player in Genshin Impact. With the new region, not Krai, around the corner, I think a lot of new players will join us, and so I decided to make a beginner's guide. This video is targeted towards a more beginner friendly level, but even if you are a higher AR, you should stick around till the end to make sure you don't miss anything. Let's go! In case you just created an account and started your journey through Teyvat, welcome! I've been playing the game for about 2 years now and consider myself an experienced player. I am adventure rank 60, have 100% exploration on the entire map and beat every form of Endgame. And I did all of it as a free to play player. First things first, why should you play the game without spending money? If you are a newer player, I strongly advise you to not spend any money in the game, at least for now. Genshin is a gacha game where you wish for characters to improve your account. For the wishes, called intertwined fates, you need primogems, and there are two ways of getting these so-called primos. The first way is to spend actual money and simply buy them from the shop. The other way is to play the game. By doing quests, opening treasure chests or doing some daily tasks, you will receive primogems. As a new player, you want to do these things anyway in order to level up your adventure rank, increase your world level to get better and more rewards, improve your characters and unlock different and harder game modes over time. In this process, you will acquire a lot of these primogems without having to invest a dime. During this phase, you will also experience the game, the open world, the characters, the combat, and you will find out whether you actually like the game or whether it is not for you. Until you know that for sure, it is best to not spend money, because buying primogems is not cheap and you don't want to swipe and then drop the game a week later. Personally, I think being free to play or F2P is generally the best and most fun way to play the game, but more on that later. Let's start out with the game itself. First, we need to talk about the combat mechanics, which means elements, teams and characters. In Genshin, your account will consist of several characters that you obtain either from completing certain quests, limited time events or wishing. These units are either a 4-star or 5-star in rarity. Obviously, 5 stars are harder to get and require you to wish for them, but I will get to that in a bit. Anyway, every character wields the power of one specific element. There are currently a total of 7 elements in the game: Anemo, Geo, Electro, Dendro, Hydro, Pyro and Cryo. Every element has its own abilities and you want to combine them in the right way to cause certain elemental reactions. How do you do that? Well, your party, meaning your team of characters, consists of 4 units that work together. These units apply their corresponding elements to opponents, and if you then apply another element, you cause a reaction which will deal higher damage. There are many different reactions in the game, and this video would be way too long if I explain each and every one of them. But I did make a tier list video where I rated all reactions in the game, so just check it out after this video if you want to learn more. Next up, let's talk about characters and how they work. Every character has an element to them and is either a 4-star or 5-star. They all use a certain type of weapon. These weapons are either a sword, a bow, a polearm, a claymore or a catalyst. Also, every character has a total of 3 combat abilities. The first one are normal attacks, which is pretty much what it sounds like. Usually that means that the unit will attack enemies with their weapon of choice, but don't apply any element this way. The exception are catalyst users who will always apply the element no matter what ability they use for their attacks. The second ability is the elemental skill. This usually includes some form of elemental application and can be of higher or lower importance depending on each unit. A skill might shield, heal, deal damage or buff your party, but I will get to the different roles of characters in a bit. The last ability is the Elemental Burst. This burst is similar to the skill, it applies the element and helps your party in one way or another. The burst requires energy though that you will receive during combat. Once you gained enough energy on your unit, you can use it, which will reset your energy level to 0 and you have to gain it back. How fast you gain your burst back depends on a lot of factors, but one important stat is the so-called energy recharge percentage on your unit. You can increase this stat through weapons or artifacts. Artifacts will be also part of this video, so stick around for that. Every character also has some additional passive abilities called talents that can be useful in certain scenarios. So, with all that in mind, how should you improve your characters? The more you play the game, the higher your adventure rank and world level will become, and the difficulty increases slowly over time. But the higher your adventure rank and world level, the more rewards you will get from the game, so increasing both AR and world level is a good thing you want to do. The even better thing, it will happen on its own if you play quests, explore the world or spend resin. Don't worry, we'll talk about all of these aspects shortly. When you're just starting out though, it should be pretty simple to defeat opponents even if you don't really know what you're doing, but at some point you need to improve your characters to make progress. First, level up your characters' level and ascend them if possible. In order to level them up, you need Adventurer's Experience, which are these little red or purple books, which you will get from exploring, doing quests or spending resin. I will talk about resin use in a bit. At some point, you need to ascend the unit to the next phase to increase their level further. For that, you need some special materials. Elemental stones, some local specialty, usually flowers, drops from overworld enemies and boss drops. To claim these boss drops you need to spend resin once again, so stay patient once more. And once you level up your units, their attack, defense, HP and other stats will go up, which makes them stronger in combat. However, your job does not end there. As I said, everyone uses a certain weapon and that needs to be leveled up as well. While you need Adventurer's Experience for characters, you need weapon enhancement materials for weapons. Weapons need to be ascended as well, so for that we need weapon materials that you get from domains and you can claim them with, you guessed it, resin. The next step to improve your unit is to level up their talents. Remember when I talked about normal attacks, skills and burst? These are the talents of a unit and you don't want to leave those at level 1 forever. In order to level up talents, you need talent books from domains and to claim it you need resin, exactly. The last way to improve them even further is to equip artifacts. However, while a lot of content creators, myself included, yap about artifacts all the time, as a new player, you do not have to worry about that yet. Again, we'll get to that. So, to summarize, we want to level characters higher, increase their weapon level and talent level, in that order of priorities. A max level for a weapon and character is level 90, but often less is good enough as well. For talents, the max level is 10/13, but you do not need to level every talent at all. Depending on the character's role in your team, you want to focus on the specific talent. Some units want normal attacks, some want skills and some want bursts. Some want all of them and some none. It depends. But there's a guide built in the game that shows you every character's priority, so just follow that for a start. Now, I have talked a lot already, but the game might still not make sense too much. Elements, characters, weapons, talents, it's a lot of information. But what do we do with that knowledge? Let's take a look at the different roles a unit can have next, and then I will show you some combat examples to make things clearer. In Genshin, your party consists of 4 characters, and ideally these units should work well with one another, both in terms of their element as well as their role. First up, we have damage dealers, or DPS in short. Damage dealers are the units that will be on field most of the time and do most of the combat activities. They are usually the number 1 slot in your party, and you want to base your team building decisions on their needs. Also, there's usually only one main damage dealer in your party because, as I said, they are the ones on field and you cannot have 2 characters on field at the same time, so adding multiple DPSs to your team makes little sense. But what are the other slots for then? Well, they are meant to support your damage dealers so they can perform the best. But support is a very general term, so let's break it down further. The next role a character can have is a sub DPS. Now what is that? Didn't you just say there's only one main damage dealer in your team? Yes, but that's where a sub DPS comes in. Sub DPSs are also damage dealers, but they require no or significantly less time on field. Their damage comes from off field, meaning they can help you in defeating enemies while your main damage dealer does their job. Sub DPSs usually have skills or bursts that are responsible for the damage numbers. Therefore, it can be a good idea to add one sub DPS to your team. Another role is a healer. Healers, well, heal. During combat, not only will you deal damage to your opponents, but they will also deal damage to your units and deplete their HP. That is why you want some form of defensive utility in your party, and healers are one of these 2 options. It is their responsibility to keep your party alive. They usually heal with a skill or burst and deal little damage to enemies. However, some healers bring more value to your team than just restoring HP, so make sure you know all about their kits. I said there are 2 options for defensive utility, and the second option is a shielder. Shielders protect your active character from damage, but only to a certain extent. They do not restore HP, but can be more comfortable to play in some scenarios because you do not have to worry too much about dodging attacks. Whether you want to run a healer or shielder in your party depends on your taste and combat scenario, but one of the 2 is very useful, especially during the early game. And last but not least, we have the role of the buffer. Buffers increase the damage of your main DPS through their skill or burst. They can increase your attack or decrease the enemy's defense or resistance to certain elements. So let's assume you have a main damage dealer that is cryo. You ideally want to use a buffer that decreases cryo resistance of enemies. Units like a Escoffier or Xylonen are good examples. Overall, your party should have a bit of everything. I run a damage dealer, a sub DPS, a buffer and a healer/shielder most of the time. Of course, you can be creative and run 2 buffers and no sub DPS, or shielder and a healer if you feel the need. This is just a starting point for your team building process. Also, one more important point before we go into the examples is that there are no clear lines between a character's role. Technically, you can run a main damage dealer as a sub DPS, it likely just won't be as efficient. Also, some healers like Bennett are also buffers at the same time, which makes them even more valuable for your team. Or Escoffier, one of the latest characters in the game, is a healer, a buffer and a sub DPS all at once. So you see, you have many options to make your team. Now, that was a lot of talking, let's show you what I mean with some examples. I'm in a domain here to test some different teams and show you what works well and what does not. First up, let's try this team. Kirara, Diona, Jean and Charlotte. Well, as you can see, this is not very effective. Why is that? Kirara is a shielder, Diona is a healer and shielder, Jean is a healer, and Charlotte is a healer as well. So we are not gonna die against these enemies, but we're also not gonna do any damage to them. So let's try another team. Gaming, Tainari, Ayaka and Keqing. This definitely is better, but still not great. We do some damage, but only with one character at a time. The reason for that is that all 4 characters here are on-field damage dealers, which means they have to be on field to do anything useful. As a result, we are not playing a full team, but one character after the other. They do not work together, and despite the fact that they are all supposed to deal damage, they hardly do anything. So, next round. Gaming, Xiangling, Sucrose and Bennett. This worked way better, but I'm still not satisfied with this team. Gaming is the main damage dealer here, Xiangling is an off-field sub-DPS, Sucrose a buffer and Bennett the buffer/healer. However, 3 of 4 characters have the same element and therefore do not react with each other. So let's finally try out a well-designed team. Gaming, Rosaria, Bennett and Citlali. Now this is what I'm talking about. You see the difference now? We kept Gaming as a DPS and Bennett as a buffer/healer, but we added a sub-DPS with a different element, in this case Rosaria, who is Cryo. When Cryo and Pyro meet, we cause Melt, and Melt is a very powerful reaction which results in way more damage. Additionally, we replaced Sucrose with Citlali, another Cryo buffer/shielder, and voila! We have a very strong team. You see why the team building part in Genshin took so long now and why it makes such a big difference. Of course, there are many more reactions in the game and you can try it out for yourself, what works well and what doesn't. Now, after the character and team building 101, let's focus on Resin. I have mentioned it several times already, and if you pay close attention, you realize that it is needed for basically anything in the game, whether you want to level up a character, a weapon or a talent. Resin is an in-game currency that is required to claim certain rewards from bosses, ley lines or domains. Resin regenerates on its own over time and you will get roughly about 180 resin in 24 hours. The problem is that you cannot have more than 200 resin at a time, otherwise your resin stops regenerating and you cap out at 200 resin. That means that you have to use your resin every single day in order to not lose free resources from the game. As I said, you need resin for everything, so here is the cost of different things you can do in Genshin. If you kill a boss and want to claim the drops, the materials you need for ascending a character, that will always cost you 40 resin per run. The higher your adventure rank and world level, the more drops you get for these 40 resin. That is why you want to increase your world level over time. The same is true for ley lines. Ley lines are these yellow and bluish balls on your map. If you trigger them and defeat all enemies, you can claim their rewards. One ley line costs 20 resin, but you can also use condensed resin, a feature that you will unlock early on in the game. To make condensed resin you need 40 resin, and if you use that for a domain or ley line, you will receive double the drops because you spend the equivalent of 40 instead of 20. Regarding the ley lines, the yellow ones will give you Mora, so basically the money of Teyvat, which you will need for literally anything. If you level anything in the game, it will cost Mora, so you can never have enough of that. The blue ley lines will give you adventurous experience, so these red and purple books that you need to increase the level of your characters. Then there are domains. And there are three kinds of domains in Genshin: talent book, weapon materials, and artifact domains. They drop the according materials. Also, there is one weapon and talent domain per region/nation in the game, because different weapons and units need different mats. So always check what you need first and then farm the domain accordingly. There are even more artifacts domain in the game, as there are many different artifact sets with different effects. I made a tier list on what artifacts domains are efficient to farm, but if you are a new player, all you need to know is this: do not spend any resin on artifacts until you are at least adventure rank 45. Only then are you guaranteed to receive 5-star artifacts, and only then it makes sense to spend resin on these domains. Since this video is for beginners, I will not spend too much time in talking about artifacts, but by the time you are AR 45, I'm sure you have a better understanding of the game anyway. The other two types of domains are viable, and if you need talent or weapon materials, you can spend your resin here as well. Important to know: in Genshin, you cannot farm for any unit any day. This means that weapon and talent domains change their drops depending on the day of the week. So let's have a look at the Mondstadt talent domain as an example. Let's say you need Freedom talent books. You can farm these on Monday and Thursday, but not on Tuesday, for example. On Tuesday and Friday, the same domain will drop a different book called Resistance, and on Wednesday and Saturday, yet another one called Ballad. This is true for every weapon and talent domain in the game. The only day where you can farm anything you want is Sunday, as all domains are available on Sunday. So check what your character or weapon needs, then see on what days this drop is available, and then farm accordingly. The last thing you need to know about are weekly bosses. Weekly bosses are bosses that you will encounter in various quests, and that you can only fight once a week. That explains the name. They cost 60 resin each, but the first 3 weekly bosses you fight in a week are 50% off, so these only cost 30. I usually never farm a 4th boss in a week because it becomes resin expensive. These bosses drop different materials from normal bosses, and you need these drops in order to level up a character's talent beyond level 6. However, you need to level up your units and adventuring quite a bit at first before you even have the option for that, so don't worry about it too much just yet. So, let's summarize once again. You receive about 180 resin a day, and you need to use it every day in order to not overcap. What should you use it early on? Bosses, Mora and book ley lines are always a good option, as you need boss drops for your character's ascension and books and Mora to level them up. During the early game it might be easy, but trust me, later in the game you need a lot of resources. As an example, if you want to level up a character from level 80 to level 90 at some point, you will need 171 heroes wits, so the purple books. You see, you can never have enough resources in Genshin. If you are happy with your character's level, you can work on the weapon and talents next and farm the domains for that. If you ever have the feeling that you don't have any use for your resin, let me tell you that you are wrong, and when in doubt, just farm more ley lines. Don't bother farming artifacts early on, because you will not get 5-star pieces anyway. Also, one more tip. There is this thing called fragile resin. Fragile resin is a reward you will get from increasing your adventure rank or from leveling up the battle pass. Each fragile resin is worth 60 resin, so do not use it easily. Many new players make a mistake and just use their fragile resin, overcap, and then lose out on the free resin they would get from the game because they are capped. Unless you know exactly what you are doing, do not use your fragile resin early on. They do not expire and are worth more later in the game, as you will get better drops once your world level is maxed out. So just use your daily resin and then come back the next day. Fragile resin is one of the rarest things in Genshin and very valuable later on. If you spend your resin, you will soon realize that the game does not give you enough resin to fully build your characters just like that. So stay patient and take it slow. It will take time to build a good account and you must focus on one team first. Please do not make the mistake and try to level up every character you get. It will not work. Instead, choose one damage dealer and find out what their best team is on your account and focus on these units first. This way you will have one team that can carry you through the game, and then you can focus on a second team afterwards. Don't try to rush it or you will soon hate the game. One day at a time, one character at a time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Stay patient, slowly build your account and enjoy the process. After this rather long section about characters, teams and combat, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the Gacha system in Genshin Impact. Gacha is one of the most defining aspects of the game, and if you are a new player, you need to know how it works. I already mentioned that you will obtain most of the characters in your account from wishing for them on banners. How does it work? In Genshin, there are 3 different banners around all the time. There is the standard banner, the limited banner, and the weapon banner. Let's start with the standard banner. The standard banner is the only permanent banner in Genshin Impact. That means that it will not go away ever and has its own currency called Acquainted Fates. These blue fates are not as rare as the pink ones, which are called Intertwined Fates. You can always exchange your hard-earned Primo Gems for both types of fates, but believe me when I tell you, never exchange your Primos for the blue fates. Only exchange them for the pink ones. The thing with the blue standard fates is that you will get them for free from playing the game over time, so there is no need to spend Primo Gems for them. The second reason is that you can only get 4-star characters and certain standard 5-star characters and weapons from the standard banner. These 5 stars are not nearly as good as the 5-star characters and weapons you can get from the other 2 banners, the limited banner and the weapon banner. That does not mean that you should never wish on the standard banner, but only use the free blue fates you get over time, nothing else. Treat the standard banner as a bonus. With that said, what are the odds? No matter whether you pull on the standard or the limited character banner, the odds are the same. In Genshin, there is a pity system, which means that you are guaranteed to get a 5-star after a certain amount of pulls. The max pity is at 90 pulls. That means that after 90 wishes on a banner, you will definitely get a 5-star. Usually it does not require 90 pulls, but that is the worst case scenario. You might be lucky and get it with 1 pull, but it is unlikely. But that is not all you need to know. Every 10 pulls, you're guaranteed to get at least 1 4-star item. This 4-star can be a character or a weapon that is random. Of course, you can get more than 1 4-star within 10 wishes, but that is depending on your luck. So, you need 10 pulls for 1 guaranteed 4-star and 90 pulls for 1 guaranteed 5-star. While you do get the blue fates from playing the game and the battle pass, the pink ones for limited characters are way more rare, so you get them from your Primo Gems. 1 pull costs 160 Primo Gems, so 10 pulls cost 1600 and so on. You see, it might take quite a while until you have enough Primos for a 10 pull, which is why you never want to waste them on the standard banner. But why is the standard banner a waste? Genshin's banner system works like this. The standard banner is there all the time, and the 5 stars on there do not change, so there's no time pressure at all. However, the limited banners work differently, which is why they are limited. Every limited banner features 1 limited 5 star and 3 4 star characters. The 4 stars on that banner have a higher drop rate, which means it is more likely for the 4 stars you get to be one of these 3 units. However, there is no guarantee. The 5 star is going to be the featured one, so for example, Ineffa. Great, so I only need 90 wishes for Ineffa? No, because that was the pity system for the characters, but there is another gambling aspect to the gacha of the limited banner. The odds of actually getting the desired 5 star are 50%. You are on a so-called 50-50. So you could spend 90 wishes and still not get Ineffa. Instead, you could lose your 50-50 and get a standard 5 star character. That's right, the 5 stars who are on the permanent banner are the potential losses of the limited banner. You see now why you don't want to pull on the standard banner? You will get these 5 star characters anyway eventually by losing your 50-50s. But what does it mean? How many pulls do you need for Ineffa then? Well, let's assume you go to max pity twice and lose your 50-50. You will need up to 180 pulls. It is not normal to need that many, but it has happened before. The average number of pulls for the desired 5 star is about 107, I think. So, again, let's summarize. The pity on character banners in Genshin is 90, meaning you're guaranteed a 5 star within 90 wishes. The 4 star pity is 10, meaning every 10 pulls is at least 1 4 star. The odds of getting the limited 5 star are 50-50. However, the good news is after you lost your 50-50, the next 5 star is guaranteed to be the one you wanted. That is what's called being on a guarantee. In other words, after you lost once, the next 5 star will be the limited one. But what happens if I lose my 50-50 and run out of primos before the banner ends? A limited character banner is there for 3 weeks. After that, the new 5 star characters will be featured. If you lost your 50-50, your guarantee carries over though, meaning if you lost on Ineffa's banner and now pull for the next 5 star, let's say Mualani, you're guaranteed to get her within the next 90 pulls. Also, your pity carries over to the next banner as well. This means if you lost your 50-50 on Ineffa and did another 30 pulls, you will get Mualani within the next 60 pulls. Make sense? Cool. Also, it does not matter how many banners you skip in between, your pity and guarantee will not go away on the limited character banner. After you get a limited 5 star, your pity and 50-50 resets then and you start back at 0. If you are unlucky and lose multiple 50-50s in a row, the odds of getting a capturing radiance increases, which is basically a conversion of a lost 50-50 into a win. It is a bit complicated and does not have too much of an impact, so if you want to learn more about that, just look up an in-depth video on that. So, now we've learned about the standard banner as well as the limited character banner. The last banner we need to talk about is the weapon banner, and this one works a bit different once again. Instead of 90, the pity is 80, meaning you're guaranteed a 5 star weapon within 80 wishes. However, the weapon banner will always feature 2 limited 5 star weapons, and if you want to wish for one of these, you have to select your path. This means that you are targeting this specific weapon. So for example, this polearm for Ineffa. Now, there are 3 scenarios. You might win, in which case you're good to go and can walk away. You got the weapon you wanted. Option B is you lose to the other limited 5 star weapon. What now? In that case, you gathered 1 fate point, and this is why you needed to set the path in the beginning. The cost for a guaranteed weapon of your choice is 1 fate point, which effectively means after you got the wrong weapon, the next 5 star weapon is guaranteed to be the one you wanted, for example Ineffa's polearm. So is it like a 50-50 then? No! Fate points sound the same at first, but work differently from a 50-50 loss. Fate points do not carry over to the next banner. That means, after you lost to the wrong weapon. You need to get the desired weapon while the banner is still available. Once the banners change, your fate point is gone, the odds reset, and you can lose on your next weapon pool once again. The pity still carries over, but the guarantee/fate point is gone. The third scenario is you lose to a standard banner weapon, because you can also get every standard banner 5-star weapon from the weapon banner. In that case, you also collected one fate point, and your next weapon during this banner is going to be the desired one, but instead of another limited weapon, you got a standard one. TLDR, the weapon banner is tricky, and as new players, I do not recommend pulling on it at all. My F2P approach is to only pull on this banner if you are either happy with both of the featured 5-star weapons, or you have enough pulls, in this case 160, to guarantee the desired weapon. Do not spend 100 wishes, lose to the wrong weapon and then run out of pulls. Then all your primos are gone, but you didn't get the thing you wanted. One last banner is the Chronicled Wish banner. The Chronicled Wish is a pretty rare banner and features older characters from a certain nation as well as their weapons. The rules are similar to the weapon banner. You select one unit/weapon you want and the pity is 90 pulls. Should you lose, you get a fate point, and this fate point will also be lost if you do not get the desired 5-star item before the Chronicle banner goes away. So also very tricky for early players. Also, your pity is counted independently on each banner. So if you spend 60 pulls on a character and didn't get a 5-star and then switch over to the weapon banner, you still start at 0 pity. Standard banner, weapon banner, limited banner and chronicled character/chronicled weapon banner are all independent of one another, so you always start at 0 pity. Okay, let's take a breather. That was a lot. However, what happens if I get one character twice? Is the second one wasted then? No. In Genshin, you can wish for multiple copies of the same unit. You will still get the character only once, but for every additional copy you get a so-called constellation. Activating a constellation will make your character stronger. Every unit in the game has 6 constellations in total. In short, you will hear C1, C2, C6, etc. Meaning at what constellation is your character. Now, another F2P advice. Do not pull for constellations on 5 stars. Most 5 stars are already very strong at C0, so you only need them once. Over time you will probably get constellations for the standard characters, whether you want to or not. I do not wish that much, but still have a C1 Chi-Chi, C1 Mona or C1 Diluc. For limited 5-star characters, their constellations can be very strong, but it is also very expensive to get those, and generally there is not really a need for it. Regarding 4-star characters, it is a matter of time until you will get multiple copies of them, so view these as free upgrades to your account. In order to get C6 of a character, you need a total of 7 copies of them. So if you paid attention, it should be self-explanatory why you cannot get C6 for 5 stars without spending a lot of money. What constellations are to characters are refinements to weapons. If you have a weapon multiple times, you can refine it to make it stronger. You can refine a weapon up to 4 times, leaving you with an R5 weapon, because you used 5 copies of that weapon. While refining weapons can be good for certain 3 or 4-star weapons, I would suggest that you do not refine 5-star weapons, because they are very useful on multiple different characters. Also, if you do not have a lot of new 4-star weapons yet, do not refine them, because you need a weapon for every character you want to build. So, we talked about combat, teams, building characters, Resin and the Gacha system. But before I will release you into the wide world of Teyvat, there is one more topic that you need to be familiar with. Quests, exploration and endgame. All the primos for the Gacha have to come from somewhere. One of the best ways to increase your adventure level and get familiar with the gameplay mechanics is to follow the main quest in Genshin, the Archon quest. Follow Paimon's instructions, even though she can be annoying, I know, and move forward on your journey through all the nations of Teyvat. The Archon quest is the main story of Genshin, but there are many more quests available. Story quests are nice ways to get to know all the 5-star characters in the game, and they also give you some rewards. And there are also hundreds of world quests. These are shorter and add to the world building of each nation, cover some lore and also give you primos and other valuable items. If you have nothing better to do, just play some to make progress on your account. Also, sooner than later you will unlock daily commissions. These are small to-dos you should finish every single day for a total of 60 primos per day. Another way to get primos are limited time events. These usually take place in the form of one or multiple mini-games, but especially the big main events will also have a quest. If you can take part in any event, do yourself a favor and do so. Not only do they give a lot of primos, but they also give you free 4-star characters or weapons, and once the event is gone, it is gone forever, so even more reason to not miss them. Apart from questing, you can also explore the open world in Genshin. The map is big, and I mean big. It will take you weeks to explore everything, and there are challenges, treasure chests or puzzles all over the world that will give you rewards. I suggest to unlock all statues of the 7 and as many teleport waypoints as possible in the region you want to explore first. This way the map becomes visible and you do not have to walk everywhere. If you are wondering how much you explored already, this percentage number will show you your exploration progress. But let me tell you, as someone who has 100% everywhere, there are still chests and treasures to find. Also, try to follow your adventurer's handbook as good as you can for a start. It will give you tasks that helps you in making progress in your account, make it stronger and will reward you for it, so don't ignore it. Regarding endgame content, do not worry about it. You are just starting out, so take it slow. The endgame people are talking about is the Spiral Abyss, Stygian Onslaught and the Imaginary Theater. However, these modes are for experienced players. Sure, you can try to clear the easier game modes and early stages of Abyss, but don't try too hard just yet. It takes time. It took me over a year until I got all the rewards from Spiral Abyss, so no need to rush it. If you have more questions about these endgame modes, I also have videos on that with F2P tips, so just come back for those. Alright, almost done. With all of that information, what does a typical Genshin day look like? For a detailed guide, also check out my other videos on that topic, but in short. You log in, you do your daily commissions and claim your rewards from the Adventurers Guild. Then, spend all your resin on things like ley lines, talent or weapon materials or bosses. If there is an event at the time, make sure to max it out before it goes away, and if you have some time, continue with the quest or explore the map. If you can, improve your characters and just enjoy the game. Genshin has a lot of things to offer, and as long as you don't try to rush the progress, you will be able to enjoy it. For me, I fell in love with the open world when I first started playing, and I'm still excited for new regions every time. I like the game, even after roughly 700 days of playing. That's a lot of hours in Teyvat. As a last but most important tip, know what makes a good account. Some people will say it's the amount of 5 stars, some people say it's to get the best artifacts, others say it's to clear the endgame as fast as possible, but none of that is true. A good account can be measured in the joy you get from playing on it, and that is all that matters. Luckily, I understood that a while ago and still enjoy the game to this day so much that I ended up making videos on it. On that note, this brings us to the end of this beginner's guide for Genshin Impact. For all the new players, I hope this video helped you, and if you have any more questions, please ask me in the comments below. For all the more experienced players who still stuck around till the end, thank you, and did I miss anything? Feel free to share your best tips and tricks in the comments as well. If you like this video, please leave a like or even subscribe to my channel. Videos like this one take a really long time to make, and I'd really appreciate your support. With that said, have fun on your journey through Teyvat, enjoy the process, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!